Hello there guys, and welcome to what is going to be our 8th tutorial in the series of C programming tutorials. Today's tutorial we're going to go ahead and talk about the for loop. So the for loop is going to we're going to go over an example of a forward for loop and also a backwards for loop, and so you guys can get a better understanding of how the for loop operates in general. So to waste no more time, you guys should go ahead and create a new project. If you haven't done, even if you have that done already, go ahead and add a new source file under the source files folder here. I have mine called basically called for loop, but short of that. So if you don't know how to create a new project, then go ahead and refer to my previous tutorial. That should show you exactly how to do that. And if you haven't watched those, go ahead and do those. I recommend those; they're very informative. And if you haven't checked out my other series of tutorials, referring to the C++, Java, and the other tutorials, please go ahead and watch those as well, and leave as many comments as possible. That's always very appreciated. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. That's also very, very appreciated. So let's go ahead and get started. Always, we're going to go ahead and get started by including the libraries we need to use. In our case, just the standard input and output library will do. This is only a very simple tutorial. Next, let's go ahead and type int main, and let's go inside our main function. So what I want to do here, let's go ahead and declare a data type of int variable here. So to do that, let's go ahead and type int, and I'm going to call mine max, and let's set that equal to 10. Next, let's go to our main point on this tutorial. Let's go in the for loop. So let's go ahead and start the for loop by typing for. Let's open a parenthesis there and type int. I'm going to call it I. Set it, initialize it to 0. I less than max. Semicolon there, and let's put I plus plus, and open bracket and close bracket. And inside our for loop here, let's go ahead and type a simple printf statement. That'll do for this tutorial, and %d. And let's go ahead and basically here put I. So we'll print out the I. Let's go outside our for loop body here, and what we want to do is let's type printf again, and let's just type /n. This is for a new line character. Just to make this doesn't do anything, it just prints a new line just to make it look a little neater, the output we will have. And let's go ahead and type return 0 here. So we can tell the main, this is very important, it tells the main function that everything, all the lines inside the main, all the code executed correctly and everything went fine as expected. Alright, so let's go over our code very quickly. This is a forward, basically for loop, by the way. So we're counting up, we're not counting backwards, we're counting forwards. So we started by including the libraries like we always do. In this case, just a standard input and output. That will do for us. Then here we have our main. We're inside our main. We created and initialized a variable called max, which is basically a data type of int, which is an integer. So we set that value to 10. Next, we have our for loop here. So we're starting. So we are inside our for loop, and we have I here. I is we declared I as an int data type, and we initialize it to 0. So what is I will act like a counter. So this will mean basically how many times the body of the for loop here will execute. So I is 0. Our second part here is our conditional statement. So it's basically checking if this is true. So it's basically checking if I, which is 0, is less than max, which is 10. So in our case, this is true. Then it will link this. The I plus plus means basically increment the value I here. So add 1 to I after the body of the loop is executed. So since this is true, we will increment I after this statement is printed. So we're going to print I first. This just prints out I. So this will print out 0. Then it will increment I. So we'll make 1. So then we go back here. We check the conditional again. Is 1 less than 10? Yes, it is. Then we print out 1 here in the for loop's body. We print out 1. And then what we do, we go up here again, and our I equals 2, and we do this until our conditional here becomes false. So once that becomes false, it will break out of the loop, print a new line, and then it will tell it that everything executed correctly. We're done. So let's go ahead and build this. Alright, so we see here it built it successfully. So if when we run this, what we should see is basically we should see the values of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then well, that's about it. So if we go ahead and start without debugging, we do see here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's what we expected to see. Okay, so that's not a big shocker. So okay, let's go ahead back in here, and what I want to do here, let's go ahead and print another line here. So you can just go ahead and copy the previous line code. Let's print another line here. So now let's go ahead and talk about basically the backward. So we're going to talk about if it's we're going to count backwards now, the backward for loop. So let's type int I, and let's set this equal to max. So this is 10 basically now. So what we want to do now, we want to make sure that, so we will type I is greater than. So we will go from base. So let's type I is greater than or equal. So so we should count from 10, well in our case 9, so we can set I equal to I equals max minus 1, because max is 10, so that will set to 9. So we want to go from 9 to 0, which is 10. So then we're going to say I is greater than or equal. So we'll say I is greater than or equal to 0, and I minus minus. And inside here we'll do the same thing. So we'll type a printf, and let's put it here, and what we're gonna print out I. So let's go over well basically let's go over this part of the code and in detail and understand how this works. It's a little bit more complicated than the previous one, but pretty much the same idea. So what are we doing here? Basically we declared so we can initialize and call initialize the same variable of the same data type inside the for loop here and call it I again. The reason is because of the scope, how the scope works. So this I is only visible inside the for loop and no one else can see it, so therefore you can declare a variable with the same name in a different scope, and they will not interfere with each other. But we will talk about scope later on, but that is the reason why these two variables do not interfere and they have the same name. So we have I here, and we're setting I to max minus 1. So what does this mean? This means that I is equal 9. Why is it equal to 9? Because max is 10. Once we initialize it up here, 10 minus 1, that's 9. So we have 9 here. We go in here, we see that 9 is greater than or equal to 0. Yes, that is true. And so then what we're going to do is print out the statement. So we're printing out 9. Then after that is executed, what we do is we decrement y. So we subtract 1 from y, from I every time this is this body is executed. So now I becomes 8. We're gonna go ahead back here. We're gonna check the same the conditional again. I is 8. Is that greater than or equal to 0? Yes, it is. Go back again, print out, and then keep doing this until we reach 0. So once it's 0, is 0 greater than or equal to 0? True. Okay, we're gonna print out the statement here. So we're gonna print out 0. Then this becomes -1. Is -1 greater than or equal to 0? No, that's false. We'll break out. Then we'll return. We're going to return basically 0, and the program will terminate successfully. But let's go down here and also printf, and let's print a new character, a new line, a return character here. This is only these are just to make it look a little neater. That's why I'm doing those. This is just skipping some lines, leaving blank lines. So if we go ahead and build this up here, we should see what we saw previously. So up here we should see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 0 through 9 in the first for loop. But then we should see 2 space, so we're going to skip one line and a second line. Then we should start from 9 and go down to 0, decrement it. Then we'll print another blank line. Then everything's done. So let's go ahead and build this, make sure it's compiled successfully. So successful. And let's go ahead and start without debugging and see if we get what we expected. So we do get what we expected. So we get, for the first for loop, we get 0 through 9, and for the second one, 9 through 0. Alright guys, I hope you liked this tutorial. This was a quick tutorial basically going over the for loop, the forward for loop, and the backwards for loop. And if you have any questions about this, you can leave comments or send me a message. And or if you have any ideas of any tutorials you would like me to make in particular, you can leave a message or a comment or send me a message. And if you haven't watched my other series of tutorials, guys, or the previous tutorials of this series, I suggest you do that, and I would be truly appreciated if you do that. And if you have subscribed to my channel, please do that as well. And thank you for watching these tutorials. Don't forget to subscribe, and there's more coming soon. So thank you for watching.